As you are aware that the UK government just dropped new immigration rules. Lots of you guys have been emailing me saying, why am I quiet? I'm not commenting on these changes. Well, maybe I was also absorbing what the changes really mean. So in this video, I'm going to cut right to the chase. The new updates to the immigration changes mainly affect those on skilled worker visa, especially those whose job description falls below level RQF6. But for simplicity, we shall say degree level. And not only that, it also affects their dependents and also goes as far as affecting those who are trying to switch from one visa to another. For example, if you are switching from student to skilled worker visa or from post-study work visa to a skilled worker visa. So this video is going to be very short, but I can assure you that it's going to cover all the main points, everything that you basically need to know to make an appropriate decision. So just make sure that you stick right to the end and let's go. Welcome back, guys. As you might be already aware that before getting a skilled worker visa to the UK required one to have an RQF6 qualification. That basically means a degree level qualification. But this was lowered to RQF3, and one of the major updates that they have done is to take it back to RQF6. Don't take my word for it. Let's see exactly what they said. So what you are seeing here is the summary of the statement that was released and published on 1st of July 2025. So we are not going to read all this. We're just going to go straight to the main points. So here it is. Changes to the skilled worker and other routes as set out in the immigration white paper. Yes guys, that white paper I made a video on, and some of you guys came and commented saying you guys are making too much noise about this white paper. Yes guys, it was probably too much noise, but yes, information is power. Those who watched it and those who watched the subsequent video that I made of what you can do before these changes are put into effect have probably benefited. And that is the whole point, to share information so that people can act on it. But let's focus on today's video. So here you have it. Currently, it has been skilled worker applicants must be sponsored for a job in an occupation skilled to regulated qualification framework RQF level 3 or above. The threshold relates to the skill level of the occupation rather than any qualifications held by an applicant. The threshold was lowered from RQF level 6 in immigration rules changes made in 2020, in part to help businesses adapt to the ending of free movement between the UK and EU. Since then, as set out in the immigration white paper, growth in visa numbers and concerns about exploitation of overseas recruits have been particularly seen in occupations below RQF level 6. These changes therefore lift the threshold for skilled workers back to RQF level 6. And I want you to mark this point here. The threshold relates to the skill level of the occupation rather than any qualifications held by an applicant. Right guys? So what this means is that sometimes we have had people come to the UK. You may have your master's degree, you may have your degree, you have your PhD or whatever other qualification that you have, but you find an opportunity that does not require all that qualification and you apply for it, and this opportunity is below degree level, and then you would get visa sponsorship for it. Now UKVI is saying we don't care whatever qualification that you have. It's not important. What is important is the actual job that you are being sponsored to do. If that job requires a skill level less than degree, which is RQF level 6, then you will be denied. So now students who have been coming to the UK, you do a master's And then after that, then probably you get challenges getting a job at your skill level, and then you opt for something at a lower level and get visa sponsorship for that. Home Office is saying that is not going to happen anymore. Whether you have a master's or a PhD or whatever qualification that you may have, as long as you are applying for visa sponsorship for a job whose requirement is less than a degree, it will be denied. And talking about students and those on postgraduate visa, there is something else that it touches you directly that I'll share later on. For now, let's continue. So here alone they say this change means a reduction of around 180 occupations. The only good news about that is that if you are already in the UK, being sponsored for a job below RQF6, or you have already put in your application before the 22nd of July 2025, and that application becomes successful even after 22nd of July 2025, you will not be affected. So guys, if you have an opportunity and you are in the process of applying, please hurry and make sure that you put in that application and it gets decided in time. And if you can afford, you could even opt for priority or super priority services so that you can get your visa approved before the 22nd of July 2025. Otherwise, you'll be locked out. So this change alone means that most healthcare workers and carers have been locked out. And in fact, they go ahead to emphasize the issue of the carers, that is job code 6135 and 6136, as being the majorly affected occupations. And Home Office is saying this is because overseas recruits for these roles have been highly exploited and the rule has been abused. Let's move on to dependents. But before we continue, if you find any value at all in this video, please make sure that you give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends. Don't keep this kind of information to yourself so that they may also benefit those at the verge of making a decision. This is the kind of information they need to decide on what to do next. Having said that, let's move to dependents. So, after 22nd of July 2025, even those who are in the UK and being sponsored for jobs below degree level, if your dependents are not here by the 22nd of July 2025, you will not be able to bring those dependents unless you put in their applications before the 22nd of July, guys. So if you have been thinking, well, I'll do it next time, I'll do it next week, I'll do it next month, now is the time. If you want to be together with your family, this is the time to bring in your family and you guys can live together in the UK. Other than that, you'll have to forget until you find a job at RQF level 6 or above. And still about that, after 22nd of July, even your own dependents cannot switch to a skilled worker visa unless they are being sponsored for a job at degree level and above. That is according to these changes, which are effective 22nd July 2025. You see, for some reason, people would come to the UK and then they get issues with the company that sponsored them to come, and then their dependents would switch and get a skilled worker visa. Then the previous main applicant switches to be a dependent of their dependent who is now the main sponsor. I hope I've not confused you. Well, like if you come with your wife and you are the main sponsor and your wife is a dependent, and then you have issues with your company, your wife would switch from being a dependent to getting her own skilled worker visa sponsorship. And then since you have issues with your company, you would switch now to being her dependent. I hope it's clear now. So that would make sure that you guys continue staying in the UK and working legally. But now your spouse or your partner or your dependent can no longer switch unless they are getting a sponsorship for a job at level RQF6 and above. The only exceptions to what I have already said before is in the temporary shortage list. And they interestingly worded it intentionally adding the word temporary, meaning the government reserves the right to change anything about that list. All of that is explained in the full statement. They have also stated that even though you are still at RQ level 3 to 5 in the UK, you will still be able to switch employers, extend your visa, and take on supplementary work in the UK. They are saying this is not going to go on indefinitely. This is short-lived, and the government is going to introduce new changes to curtail that as well. Maybe we should look at that briefly so that you don't take my word for it. Here you have it. For now, transitional arrangements in this statement of changes exempt workers who are already in the skilled worker route or have been sponsored for an application which is later successful when the changes come into effect from the increase the skill threshold. As set out in the immigration white paper, this enables existing skilled worker visa holders to continue to renew their visas, change employment, and take supplementary employment in occupations below RQF level 6. Now this is the real point. These transitional arrangements will not be in place indefinitely and will be reviewed in due course. And of course, reviewing means it will be stopped. So whatever you have to do, guys, do it fast, do it quickly, and do it now. My friends, don't say I didn't share this information. And those of you who have been pushing me to share my comments on these changes, I want to say thank you. And for everyone else, thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.